one alderman, and I am filling in for Chairperson Ray Ohm in his absence. Let's go around the room and do a quick roll call here, starting with Joe.
Joe Eichstead, City Engineer.
Dean Veneman, Alderman, District 2, subbing on the committee today.
Dennis Pollock, a member of the committee, Alderman number 6.
Okay, thank you. So we'll call this meeting to order at 5 o'clock. Item 2 is review the bids for the 2023 curb and gutter and sidewalk maintenance contract and consider award to the low qualified bidder. Joe?
So we did open bids today for this contract. We did receive 3 bids, one from SD Ellenbecker in the amount of $289,450, one from Summers Construction, $194,025, and from Petrikis Construction in the amount of $193,035. Petrikis is the apparent low qualified bidder. The difference between what the low qualified bid is, so the $193,035, and what we had budgeted or available in our budget for this work is significant. As you can see noted there, we had a budget, available budget of $107,000 roughly for this work. We were anticipating a little bit less than that based upon 2022 contract pricing that we received last year. That was a local contractor that had that pricing for last year. But so considering the gap that we have, there's a couple options that I could present to the committee this evening. First one, obviously, the obvious option is we could deny the bids. However, I don't expect that if we rebid that we'll see significant differences in prices. The 2 lowest bids were within $990 of each other. And then the outlier being SD Ellenbecker. They're actually our concrete contractor for the season for our road reconstruction projects, so they'll be in town anyway. So obviously their schedule must be full. But I guess another scenario, if we deny the bids without rebidding, it would just be work that we wouldn't be able to accomplish for this construction season. Another option is talking with Tim DeSorsi, the finance director, this afternoon. If we were to award the bid to Petrikis and reduce the quantity in the contract by roughly $30,000, that the remaining 56,000, we could close that gap in 2 areas. One is we have $21,000 roughly from last year's curb and gutter sidewalk budget that was left unspent. And then there is always an option of transferring about $35,000 from reserves, so doing a budget transfer. That would close the gap. Then we'd be at a new contract price and new budget of $163,000. And that would be our recommendation if, under the premise that we have more than enough work that needs to be done with curb and gutter and sidewalk maintenance. We've been in this particular neighborhood more than one season now, and that the list of maintenance work continues to grow each year. So postponing is always a difficult thing. It's one of the issues we had in prior years with the contractors that we had, not being able to complete all of the work in one season. Case in point is last year's funds that were left unspent. It continues to kind of put us behind where we anticipate being, and of course what dollars are available in any given year. So what we did this year with the contract is tried to tighten it up a little bit. We had hoped to get a local contractor to still bid on it, but unfortunately, we didn't receive that. So the recommendation, I guess, just to summarize everything, would be to award the contract to Petrikis Construction in the amount of $193,035 and contractually reduce that contract amount by $30,000 with the intent to carry over funds and transfer funds into the budget as presented with the dollar amounts listed there. Of course, that action would actually occur under a different committee next month probably with finance and property, but at least you'd be considering that at this time anyway with what the intent might be.
Thank you, Joe. Questions, comments?
No, I don't have any comments.
Interesting, these numbers are, that Petrikis and Summers came out so close to each other, and then they're so different in so many areas.
Yeah, that is a good point. There's definitely some modification of those unit costs. I guess they're, certainly curb and gutter was a big one. They are larger, across the board, larger unit costs than we've ever seen. But then jumping from $55 per foot up to $76 a foot. Yeah, there's definitely some deviations there on what maybe their equipment or what they anticipate for labor or what they anticipate for actual quantities in the end.
Explain what this traffic control number is, that they're so
Oh.
different from everybody else.
Yeah, sure. So what we did, so prior years, using a local contractor, the city's street departments, city's crews would put out traffic control. They'd do all the removals, and then they do all the restoration work. They do the topsoil and seeding. They do any asphalt patching that was needed. So city crews were really engaged in a good chunk of the work. So what we did with the contract this year is we separated out traffic control and the two restoration items as alternates. So they're not part of the base bid, but we wanted to see the unit costs from the contractor. So if we were within budget and we had favorable pricing on those items, that the city crews, wouldn't have to be so engaged and they could carry on with other maintenance activities. Considering the pricing that we do have and the budget constraints, we would still utilize the city's crews to set traffic control and do the restoration work under this contract, or under this work in conjunction with.
So if that's the case, then isn't Petrikis really lower if you're not going to use that part?
Yeah, so I should have probably modified the spreadsheet a little bit. So the bid alternate one items, those three items, they have a subtotal of 42,100 under Petrikis. That's not part of the 193.
Oh, okay. I didn't add them, obviously.
Joe, what are your thoughts on the tree root removal? That's another one that's kind of glaring.
Yeah, so there's several items, bid items in here that, we get price, we want to include the items in for bid time. Tree root removal is one of them. We've got 4 items with undistributed quantities, meaning we might utilize them if we have to, if there's a need. We want to make sure we've got a unit price for it, but we may not actually see all of that work or perhaps any of that work on some of those bid items. So if you were to add up say we didn't have to do curb ramps, that's item number 4. Say we didn't have to do item number 5, undistributed, high early strength, 6-inch concrete sidewalk. Number 6, say we didn't have to do those. And then along with number 8, number 10, those are undistributed. And then number 12, the tree root removal. If you add up those costs, it's over $17,000 in items that we may not use. We've got bid items in there for them. The bulk of the work is just standard curb, standard sidewalk, either 4-inch or 6-inch sidewalk. That's the bulk of the work. So, of the 193,000, there's maybe 17,000 that, we may use very little of, we may use none of it. Of course, with trying to pull out $30,000 worth of quantity, those would definitely be items where we'd be looking to make that up and still accomplish sidewalk maintenance and curb and gutter maintenance.
So that makes me question it even a little more, because some of these other contractors, particularly Summers, who is really only $1,000 off, basically, from Petroicas's number, they have like $8,000 in tree root removal. And so, has the city worked with Petroicas before?
We haven't worked with them before, but, considering the, we have prior numbers on tree removal, 650, 750. They're extreme numbers. We would expect to see, under 200 for that. So we haven't worked with Petroicas before. I did check their website, did a little investigative work, knowing that they were a plan holder, and anticipated a bid from them. And they might be getting into a little bit more of this work, but they do a lot of concrete work. Just, I'm not sure how much sidewalk and curb and gutter, but.
So you mentioned you did a little vetting. Are we sure that they meet the criteria for the responsible bidder ordinance?
Yeah, so there's further investigation work that we need to dig into on the documents yet. They have all the documents completed. They're all included with their bid. But we open bids at 2 o'clock this afternoon, so between now and next Tuesday, that's kind of the, make sure that all the i's are dotted, t's are crossed, there isn't anything that jumps out at us before council.
Okay.
Because this jumps out, the tree root removal.
Yeah.
Take that out, take that item out. Summers is considerably less.
And the city has worked with Summers before. Is
So-
that correct?
Yes, we have worked with Summers, we have worked with SDL Becker. Yep.
Okay.
Now, Joe, where did you say that this contractor was from, or what company? What city was he from? And do you have any, good comments on him, or from anybody, or on their type of work?
Yeah, we haven't worked with Petroicas before. They're out of Wausau. You can Google their website, which we've done, and, obviously, they're advertising their services, but, so you see the best of their work. They're not on the DOT's debarred list or anything like that. We've already looked into that just to make sure they didn't show up there, but, so beyond that, I haven't worked with them before.
Okay.
But I guess just to add to that, their work, just like any contractor's work in town, as long as they're meeting all of the requirements, their work is still inspected, still have the quality assurance, quality control aspect, and then the city still holds the purse strings as far as payment and defective work. It's all spelled out in our contract documents, and then on top of that, there's still the performance and payment bond that we require for the work. So even with the new contractor, I think there's definitely things in place here that protect the city.
Well, I agree with your sentiment that I don't believe we want to push these items off. Like you said, things have we've come to a point where we really need to ensure that we're providing these services for our residents. And with that being said, I'm going to make a motion to award the contract to the low bidder, Petroicas, in the amount of $193,035, and contractually reduce the contract by $30,000 with the intent to carry over funds and transfer funds into the budget as presented.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to vote. All in favor, respond with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Item 3 is adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, have a great evening, everyone.